you can see the remnants of a run. Actually, there's still some there we need to work on. I can see it right there just a little bit, right?
Well,
that part right there.
Just this corner, just this little bit.
Is it is it just a little? Is it just a little bit like that? Okay,
Yeah.
if it doesn't go down very far, we might work on that just a little bit more.
It's probably gonna be like that, and this is gonna be white paint right here. Where the white's
That's gonna get
go.
painted over. That'll help a little bit too. But let's do just a little bit more run removal right there, and then you'll see what I've been doing. So,
what in the world is that?
So this is the tool that I've been using. It is basically it's just a file glued onto a wooden block. And frankly, it's been like the coolest thing I've used for removing runs. It's simplified it in a way that, I mean, I didn't even know it could be that simple. So I tried the razor blade, and a razor blade works okay, but it's painfully slow and a little too easy to scar it with the corners of the razor blade.
Does this scar? I was just
It might a little bit, but we're gonna cut it anyway with sandpaper and buff it out. So what we want to do, so feel this with your finger, and you can feel where there's a little bit of a bump right there. But those right there are pretty good. Like we want to get rises out. Get that out a little more right there. But can you see what it's doing? It cuts the paint only in that really high spot. If you try to do that with just sandpaper, you end up sanding not just the ridge, but you end up sanding the sides of it.
Does it go like peak to peak? So it doesn't actually touch the good stuff. It just starts sanding down.
It's because this is so stiff that it just hits the high ridge. So we'll file that down, especially right there where it's going to be covered by trim. It doesn't matter too much. But around it here, we want to make sure that we've left like no high ridges. All right, so if you run your finger over that, do you feel any high spots? A little bit, maybe right there. It's not much. And for the level of perfection that, frankly, we're looking for, I think what's there would be just fine. So that's stage one. You might want to make sure all those runs are gone. And I think I've been through those now, okay? What that leaves us with is, look now, right? Okay, let's look at this right here. See that spot right there where the light is reflecting off the paint?
Yeah.
And see how, where I point at it in the phone isn't where you see it. And see how it's all like, it looks kind of rough. It doesn't reflect like a mirror.
I can see the little ridges, little bumps.
That's called orange peel. Because the texture of the paint is kind of like the texture of an orange peel. That's why they call it. And frankly, Caleb, it's not bad. Like for a daily driver,
I thought it was going to be something like much nastier. But
now look right here.
I thought that was already.
Watch this right here. See that? So you can see a spot right there, which is actually probably just something that was a little imperfect under the paint, and we never may fully get it out. But you can compare compare. Where are we? Compare that one to that one. The paint's really pretty smooth out there, and not as much right here. So what we want to do is get some of that orange peel out, and I don't think we'll get it 100%.
I don't think we'll get some of it. I don't think that matters that much.
It doesn't matter that much.
I thought it was already polished.
Now come over here. No, it's like I said, it's pretty good. That last coat of paint went on pretty good. Now come over, look at this. This right here has been sanded with 1000 grit sandpaper. And so we need, let's go grab a light.
All right. I believe
the one I want is on your truck in the garage. Let's try this.
I can go get it.
This will be all right. Huh, that's actually kind of cool. So you can see right there, that has not been touched up at all. Wow. In real life, it looks really good, doesn't it?
That looks really nice.
Like really good. On film,
I wouldn't really expect that to.
On film, you
bad,
can see the orange peel better than in real life. I mean, looking at the reflection, just straight up, it just it looks so good, actually. Even right there, it looks. I mean, the whole thing just looks good. Okay, now see that right there. There, look at that section right there.
It looks duller.
Very dull. But notice, so if you look right here, you can see where I've only sanded it just a little bit, and you can see the bumps that have started to come off, right, where it's kind of half sanded through here. And then you come down here, I've sanded it a little more, and that right there is completely dull. That's what we're trying to get to, is something that looks kind of like that, especially in the areas where we care. All right, and what we'll do is hit it with 1000 grit, and that one takes the most time. And then you hit it quickly with 1500, and then quickly with 2000, and then we buff it out with the polisher we were just talking about.
Damn, that's a lot of.
Now here's the
sanding.
caution. It is kind of a lot of sanding, but it won't be too bad because we don't have to sand everything. We want to sand the areas that are highly visible. So the pillar right here, behind the door, a little bit maybe at this pillar. This one will be tricky, I'll tell you why. A little bit up in here on the front. Back here, I wouldn't probably.
Wait, what
do
about the
any
rocker
more.
panel? Did you?
I would do down there on the rocker, but not a lot because that'll get scuffed up from your feet. But I would do a little bit. Notice there's some scratches. That's because I used that same file to take some nibs off. There were some little dust particles and specks right there. Come back over here. So there was a run right here that I took off.
Very nice.
And so see how that's all sanded down? And you can, again, compare right there. See how it's partially sanded right there on the very edge? Like right there, it's just partially sanded. That is good, it's dull. We want to get as close to that dull look as we can get, because then when we polish it out, it'll be just mirror finish. It won't have any orange peel or rough reflection in it at all. That had a run right there, so I worked on that. But back here, I don't think we need to worry too much about, because
the bed covers.
I've done a little bit here. This gets covered by trim.
Up here. And let's see, the bed covers up to here and the trim covers that, so it's pretty much.
You notice I did a little down there, partially again because there was a run, so I worked my way up to here. So I think we ought to focus on here up and across on the back. We ought to get this pillar across the rocker panel. I don't know, like in here in the door jamb, I don't know if I'd do that. I mean, you could decide.
Want to get the outside, or we just gonna leave?
Maybe do a little bit. You could decide. It's not highly visible. Even the rocker panel.
I was gonna say it looks the exact same as up here on the roof, and I don't really care that much because it looks so.
It looks pretty good, doesn't it? But that's the trick. We got to decide how much effort we want to put into it, and then across here. Now, here's the danger with the sanding. You don't want to sand edges.
Like, you just want to keep it flat? Is that what you're trying to say? Instead of kind of rounding it?
I will show you what I mean. Where did my...
Of course, some weather, some rubber will be covering that part a little.
I had a piece of sandpaper that I was using, but I don't... There it is. Okay. So, notice on this pillar, see how there has been no sanding right here?
I was going to ask about that when we were talking.
That's intentional. That's an edge. Because if you sand here, that's fine. As soon as you start sanding here, it will cut the corner faster than it cuts the flat. And you'll end up going through the paint pretty quickly. And you may expose primer.
Mm-hmm.
So
How
mostly,
are we going to get that, though?
We don't.
You just leave it?
Yeah. To your point,
what
is
about
it good
buffering?
enough? It's not bad. Yeah, we'll buff the corner.
All right.
We just won't sand it. It might be kind of fun to finish this section right here just so that you see what it looks like in the end and compare the difference. It wouldn't take much to do that if you want to.
Yeah, what would we do about that? It's sort of flat on this.
That
like
was a little
right
tricky.
here.
I would do these without this little sanding block is how I would do it. I would just get a little piece of sandpaper and roughly
softly
work its way through. Softly work its way through. Yeah. But, okay, come over here for just a minute. Let me show you. The same thing applies back here on the back. Hold that sanding block for me.
Oh.
So one way to do this is with a pot of water. It might be better, but if we spray it, that'll be fine too. The water bucket is helpful because it will clean the residue. Whoops, that stopped. The water bucket will help clean the residue, this stuff here, out of the sandpaper. So that's kind of nice. But watch. So where did I finish? I finished right up in here somewhere. Notice when it gets wet, it all of a sudden looks good. But now, if you just feel this, you can feel where it ended. You go right here, and it feels kind of slippery, and then right there you feel it grab. It gets kind of rough. So even though it looks really shiny right there, now what I'm doing is lifting this just a little tiny bit, so that I'm not letting the sandpaper hit that edge right there. Just a little tiny bit, and almost no pressure. I'm pushing just a little bit. Now grab a paper towel. We're going to wipe this off and you'll see what happens.
You know, the fresh one, this one was on the ground.
That's fine. You just want to wipe off the water so it removes the artificial sheen. There. I just wiped that section that I did right there. And now look. Once that dries, you might need to hit it again. And you'll see how I just started to take the tops off of the orange peel. Yeah, see that? See how it's still rough, whereas over here it's pretty dull. Here, you can see little specks there, other than that it's pretty close, and then right here you can see the roughness. So the goal is to sand it all down to where it's all dull. It doesn't have little bright specks in it, and that means you've got it down to flat or close to it, right? We're not targeting 100%. We want like, I don't know, 90%. And all the while, we want to be careful not to expose any primer. Sorry, what were you saying?
We are going to hit it again with higher grit too. Isn't that
we're going to go even finer. Yep, that's right.
Can you help me in a sec?
Yeah. You need my hands or the vise?
I'd rather not use the vise. Oh, I'd use the rag.
You could put it in our rag, yeah. Or I can help you in just a minute. All right, so that's the idea, Caleb. Now you could either grab some 1000 and do the same thing I'm doing, or we could set you up with the next grit, like a 1500. I can go through and do the 1000. You'd follow me with the 1500. That would be a possibility. Or, yeah, that's probably the two things right now. Okay, wipe that down. Let's see what we got. It's not hard. Some of the sanding we were doing required, quite a bit of pressure. This isn't that. This is light sanding.
It's with all the light blue streaks.
That's where it hasn't been wiped all the way. See, this is still a little bit wet. If you just kind of wipe it off good. See that right there? That's what we're looking for. Just a dull finish that we can buff up. So you saw how long that took, right? That little section right there was like a minute. That's what we're looking for. And I figured we'd probably hit the top, and work our way all the way around it. But we just want to be careful not to oversand the edges and find ourselves in a position where we expose the epoxy. So why don't we do this? Let me get you set up with some 2000. And I'll have you go work, not 2000, 1000. Let me get you set up with some 1000. And you can focus on the front of the cab because I only have one of these little sanding blocks. And you can start working on that. So you'll need a spray bottle or a bucket of water. and one of these 1000 sheets.
Do you care if I do the firewall?
I
I was about to say.
would probably not do the firewall.
Why do this front part anyways? Because it's covered by the hood.
Maybe that's silly to do that part.
Well, I'm almost done.
There's that. Oh, that's a great visual right there. You can see the remaining portion of the orange peel after sanding it for a couple of minutes. The high spots have been doled out as they've been sanded over, and the low spots are still shiny. So we've got just a little ways to go yet. The area that has been sanded down, I'm not terribly concerned about it right along the edge, because that gets covered with trim. That's what these little holes are for, is to mount the trim. That right there is about what we're looking for, I think. Again, there's still some right here at the edge. I'm not worried about that, because it's covered up by that trim piece. And it's not bad even then. Nice dull type of a reflection across that area. That's our target. All right, Caleb, I'm going to try, wait, where did my wool pad go? Right there. Some of this compound. The idea is to try it first in an area that won't really matter if it really screws things up. I've been using this corner down here, the bottom right, as my test corner. Well, I'd say that's a winner. That looks good. I didn't say anything.
I know you're thinking about it.
You said something funny, and I laughed.
Okay, well, yeah, I know what you're laughing at. So that's a stupid joke.
Maybe. What do you think?
It's like covered.
Some residue in that hole.
And it also, these got down to the metal.
Yeah, but we'll have trim over that, right? Mm-hmm. So we don't care. So the good is that...
Is this supposed to be something? Is this also trim?
Yeah.
Because it's like,
Yeah, the
barely.
trim goes all the way down there. The good is that the reflection, and this actually has only been polished with the 105.
It's still only been polished right here, right?
And that's been, I think I did all of them with that. So this section right here now, the reflection is totally different than it was. It is, let me get it to focus. It has no orange peel left, but look at the micro scratches in it. The little tiny lines. Up there hasn't been done.
Although we
Down
did
here
talk
has.
about when we did talk about when we saw other cars, they also had those scratches.
Yeah, not uncommon. The question is, if we keep buffing at it, will they come out? Or does it take a little bit of sandpaper, or what? What I've been doing, I went from the wool pad, I went to the orange. The orange is supposedly not quite as abrasive as the wool pad, but I think it's easier to use, and it doesn't throw crap everywhere.
So it's like the one right after the wool pad?
Yeah.
Are you gonna use that instead of the one you used over there? Or the yellow one?
This one?
Yeah.
This is medium, so you do orange and then yellow and then black.
Alright.
So let's remember what that looked like, and then hit it with this and look at it again and see if it makes any difference.
Okay, hold on.
Then we'll know whether we need to do some more sanding.
Alright.
Did that take all of them out?
Oh, whoa. Where'd that go? No way. You can still kind of see. Oh, no.
Wow, not much.
It took out some.
You still see some?
I still see some. Like right here.
If we could get 90% of them, I'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, I can see in this area right here. Right here, it's just nothing. It's clean. I can just see the light and it's glare. But it looks like a little up here. There's some micro scratches.
You can see the reflection of the compound bottles that we're using. So up in there isn't done, but back here is. That reflection is pretty dang good. With the you can see the garage door opener in the overhead right there. That's pretty reflective right there. Like,
that's perfect, isn't it?
But you got to stay over here where we've done our buffing. And we actually haven't finished. That's the rough cut. That's this one. This is finer yet, and then that'll put a gloss on it.
So we're going to use the orange pad with all of these?
Orange pad, yellow pad, black pad.
All right, well, let's get orange padding.
Okay. Let's take the rest of it down because the surface is slippery enough now that it just falls off. And so all I need is the 105 right now.
Yeah, did you test it? All of it's in there?
I've been doing.
They're all out and it looks like they've all shot.
Yeah, so this right here, I did all 3 stages.
And all 3 pads?
And all 3 pads. But I don't think I did enough with this.
There's still micros.
Because you still see the micros. All right, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to pause the buffing.
This is hard. You're not coming off that well.
Until final assembly. We're going to call it good with the rough buff. For now. And then once we have everything mounted on the frame together, we can do the final polishing.
Let's go get this thing mounted.
Looks pretty cool though. Even without the final polishing in it. Has a nice reflection. You could comb your hair in it. My bet is, Caleb, that looks better than it did from the factory.
Oh, dirty.